I'll bury you under that lake. Patricia shrieked when I confronted her. She had actually listed my private lake online for sale, $50,000, open to random investors. If that wasn't insane enough, she even called the police on me, claiming I had threatened her. But I'm not just some clueless homeowner. I have 15 years of experience in real estate. I knew exactly how to counter her scheme. There was something about her land she didn't realize, something that would flip the entire situation. Let's just say, now she can't even get close to that lake. Want to know how I pulled it off? There were 3 wild twists she never saw coming. Every morning, I sit near the lake with Duke, my golden retriever. This was the very place Emily, my late wife, once dreamed of retiring with me. Marcus, let's buy a ranch with a fishing lake when we retire, she used to say, her eyes full of light as she browsed travel magazines. But life doesn't always follow the plan. 3 years ago, a drunk driver ran a red light and took Emily from me forever. I couldn't bear to stay in our home, where every corner echoed her memory. So I sold everything and bought this 5-acre ranch, complete with a 2-acre lake, the same one from that magazine Emily had kept. This was my way of preserving her dream. With over a decade in real estate appraisal, I had seen every scam imaginable, but I wanted none of that here. I just wanted peace. Duke became my only companion. Emily had given him to me just 2 weeks before the tragedy. This ranch gave me solitude, far enough from the city to avoid the stares of pity, yet close enough for the essentials. And the heart of it all was this crystal clear lake, circled by willows that swayed with the wind. Every evening, I would sit there, fishing rod in hand, Duke by my side, finding some measure of healing. Then came Patricia Gray. 6 months ago, she moved into the house nearby, and from that day, my peace started unraveling. From the start, she gave off strange vibes. At 48, she instantly declared herself president of the Meadowbrook Women's Association. Though our community barely had 20 homes, she'd knock on doors with that rehearsed smile, peddling petitions for community development. Most neighbors were polite but standoffish. Behind her back, everyone referred to her as that city woman, usually with a chuckle or a roll of the eyes. At the local store, she'd trap people with talk of economic potential and modernization strategies. What none of us realized then was that Patricia wasn't just annoying, she was in serious trouble. She had fled the city after her real estate agency imploded. Turns out, she had been caught forging signatures and accepting deposits on homes that weren't even on the market. She owed the bank over $200,000 and had borrowed $50,000 from some ruthless lenders. If I don't pay them back in 3 months, they'll break my legs. A broken bar. I'd later overhear her sobbing into her phone. To escape, she changed her name from Patricia Coleman, dyed her hair, and relocated to our rural town. But running from debt doesn't erase it. Her grand plan? Turn our quiet area into the Patricia Lake Eco Resort. She had already made brochures and gathered a list of potential investors. And at the center of her delusion, my lake. The lake that meant everything to me and once belonged to Emily's dream. She had studied county land records and figured that if she could control access to the water, she could make millions. In her eyes, she was a visionary. That I legally owned the lake? Just a small, inconvenient detail. After all, who was I to stand in the way of her dream? Then came Monday morning, and the day everything shifted. Like every day, I got up at 6:30, made some coffee, fed Duke, and got ready for our morning walk. That's when my phone rang. Unknown number, then another, then another. By 6:47, I had over 50 missed calls and dozens of texts. Is this Marcus? I'm interested in the lake property. Will you take $60,000 cash? I'm flying in from California to see it. My hands shook as I opened my laptop, and there it was. Dozens of listings across real estate groups and online marketplaces. Patricia had posted my lake for sale. Incredible investment opportunity. Private 2-acre lake, perfect for resort development. $50,000 priced to sell. Contact Patricia Gray, authorized agent. She had included aerial photos taken with a drone showing every inch of my property. She even uploaded mock-ups showing cabins and walking paths. My sanctuary. My last link to Emily. A broken bar turned into some online pitch for profit. Duke sensed the fury building in me and whimpered. My first thought was to call the police, but I knew that would take too long. I needed to confront her. Now, I stormed out, Duke close behind. The short walk to Patricia's house felt like it took seconds. I found her watering her roses, that plastic smile plastered on her face. "Good morning, Marcus. Isn't it just lovely today?" she chirped. "Are you out of your mind?" I exploded. "You're selling my property online." Her smile didn't budge, but her eyes narrowed. "Oh Marcus, don't be so dramatic. That lake has been sitting there wasted for years. I'm just trying to bring value to the community. That lake is mine, my property. You have no right." I stepped closer, fist clenched. "Rights?" she laughed. "Do you have proper paperwork, or have you just been squatting on unclaimed land all this time?" She was bluffing. My deed was solid, taxes paid up to date. But the way she said it made me hesitate. Then I saw her hand behind her back, tapping away at her phone. "Don't think you can scare me," she said louder now. "I know men like you, bitter old guys who think the world owes them everything." Before I could say a word, her entire demeanor changed. Her face twisted into fake panic. Then she screamed, "No, please don't hit me. Somebody help me. He's going to kill me." She threw herself backwards, toppling over her flower pots as if on cue, her phone already dialing emergency services. I stood frozen in place, completely stunned, while Patricia kept screaming. "He said he'd bury me under the lake. Please, someone call 911. In less than 5 minutes, sirens echoed through the valley. 2 police cars sped up Patricia's driveway. 4 officers jumped out, hands already on their holsters. Patricia bolted toward them, hair messy, mascara streaking her cheeks. "Thank God you're here. This man threatened to kill me," she sobbed. The lead officer cautiously approached me. "Sir, step back and show me your hands." "She's lying," I said, trying to stay calm. "I came over because she's illegally selling my lake online." "Hands up." "Stay calm," the officer ordered firmly, clearly not in the mood for explanations. Duke growled instinctively at the strangers, and I had to grab his collar before things got worse. What followed were the longest 30 minutes of my life. The officers separated us and began taking statements. Patricia unleashed a dramatic tale of harassment and death threats. I tried explaining the real situation about the fake listings and the property rights and showed them screenshots on my phone. But the skepticism in their eyes was hard to miss. That's when a lifeline appeared. Mrs. Henderson, my neighbor from 2 doors down. She had a set of security cameras that covered part of Patricia's front yard. The officers reviewed the footage, and there it was, plain as day. I stood motionless while Patricia flung herself backward like a stunt double. No contact, no aggression, just me and Duke, completely confused. The sergeant's jaw tightened. "Ma'am, making false police reports is a serious offense." Patricia's crocodile tears dried up instantly. "That video doesn't show the whole story. He threatened me before that." The sergeant exhaled with clear frustration. "You both need to handle this civilly. No more drama." "Ma'am, don't call us again unless there's an actual emergency." "Sir, stay off her property." As the officers pulled away, Patricia glanced at me with a smirk. She had lost this battle, but she clearly wasn't finished. Duke and I trudged back home. My mind spun with questions. Patricia wasn't going to give up. She was desperate, and in her eyes, my lake was her last chance at fortune. As we crossed into my property, something sparked in my memory. 15 years in real estate had taught me how to navigate shady deals, easements, and forgotten land transfers. That night, I dug out my old survey maps. If Patricia wanted to play dirty, she was about to find out that this widower wasn't defenseless. By midnight, I'd stumbled on something buried deep in the county records, something Patricia had clearly missed. She had just falsely accused me, trying to ruin my reputation. But she had no idea that I'd uncovered a potentially devastating secret about her own property. What do you think I found? The next 3 nights blurred into a frenzy of caffeine, paperwork, and red, tired eyes. My dining table vanished under piles of dusty records stretching back to the 1950s. Duke watched me from the floor, occasionally nosing my arm, worried. Every piece of land leaves a trail, and after years in real estate, I knew exactly how to follow those trails. The research was slow and tedious, matching plot numbers, checking tax records, but this wasn't just about fighting Patricia anymore. It was about defending Emily's dream. My laptop glowed with county GIS maps, which I compared against brittle old surveys, scanning for inconsistencies. Meanwhile, Patricia was ramping up her campaign. Each morning, right at 8, she marched groups of interested investors past my property line, gesturing dramatically toward the lake. From my window, I watched her hand out glossy brochures. My Lake 8, complete with fake photoshopped cabins, now rebranded as Patricia Lake Resort Spa. She had even paid someone to design a sleek website featuring virtual tours and packaged deals. The audacity was beyond belief. She hosted fancy preview events in her backyard, pitching her fake resort with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. Duke would bark every time a crowd came too close, but Patricia would just smile and say to investors, "Oh, don't worry, the current occupant will be relocated soon." On the third evening, my elderly neighbor, Thomas Murphy, stopped by. His family had farmed this land for 4 generations. "You look like hell, Marcus," he said bluntly. "That woman's got the whole county buzzing. In 40 years, I've never seen anything like it." He handed me a casserole, courtesy of his wife, Linda. "She's trying to steal my land," I told him, showing him the online listings. His face hardened. "My granddad always said that the slickest thieves wear the nicest clothes. If you need help, just ask." We remember when New and Emily moved here. We're not about to let some city con artist erase that. By that third night, I was beyond drained. Duke wasn't eating, clearly anxious over my change in routine. My eyes burned, and I started seeing parcel numbers everywhere I looked. Around 2 a.m., I sat staring at a photo of Emily. I whispered, "I don't know if I can be this. She's got money and contacts. Maybe I should just sell and leave." Duke let out a soft whimper. And then I remembered something. Emily, 2 days before the accident, she had stood on the dock at sunset, arms stretched out like wings, laughing. "This is perfect, Marcus. Promise me we'll never leave." I had promised her, thinking we had decades together. Now, that promise felt sacred. Refocused, I returned to the documents. At exactly 2:15 a.m., I was studying a county survey book from 1960 when something jumped out at me. The old property boundaries on this map. Over the years, the land around here had been redrawn and divided as old farms were split up. Patricia's property had been carved out of a larger estate back in 1985. But in the worn-down ink of an old survey map, I noticed something odd. A narrow rectangular strip of land, roughly 75 square meters, nestled precisely between Patricia's eastern edge and the trail that led from her land to my lake. It was labeled simply Plot X, with no number, and a handwritten note mentioning uncertain ownership. Instantly, my exhaustion disappeared. I cross-checked it with county tax documents. The last recorded owner was a man named Joseph Wilson, who had passed away in 1987. No heirs, no will. The land had been untouched, forgotten for nearly 4 decades. But it wasn't just some forgotten scrap of soil. This narrow slice of earth was essential as the only way for Patricia's dirt road to reach my lake without her having to wade through miles of protected wetlands. I pulled up satellite images to double-check, and there it was, the missing puzzle piece. That small strip had gone unnoticed for years. The previous owners had used it freely, assuming it was part of their land. Patricia's title search had missed it entirely because the plot wasn't registered with a number in the county's digital system. I snapped pictures of every document, heart pounding with quiet triumph. Patricia thought she had me boxed in, but she had unknowingly handed me the weapon that could dismantle her entire plan. I barely slept that night. At exactly 7 a.m., I was standing outside the county land office when it opened. Rita, the same clerk who had helped me years ago, raised her eyebrows. "Marcus, you're here early. Everything okay with the lake?" "Under siege," I replied. Then I told her everything Patricia was up to. Rita's expression hardened. "Plot X. Yeah, I remember now. Wilson died without a will or any family. Technically, the county should have claimed the land for unpaid taxes, but it must have slipped through the cracks." "Any idea how much the taxes are?" I asked. She clicked through the system. 37 years of unpaid taxes, around $380 total. "Can I buy it?" I asked eagerly. "It has to go to public auction first," she explained. "But we'll post the notice today. The auction will be held in 3 days. Honestly, who else is going to want a forgotten strip of dirt? But in small towns, news travels fast. By that afternoon, Patricia had clearly heard about it. I spotted her car parked near the courthouse, probably combing through the same land records. That evening, she cornered me at the grocery store. "Marcus," she said, forcing a smile, "I heard you're eyeing that little strip of land. Planning to plant a garden?" She was fishing for intel. "Just cleaning up some boundary issues," I replied with a shrug. Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Well, may the best bidder win. Though I really can't imagine wasting money on something so useless." She was bluffing, trying to act nonchalante, but her sudden interest told me she was worried. Good. I had 3 days to prepare. That's when I remembered William Johnson, a retired theater professor who lived a couple towns away. I'd appraised his house years ago and knew he enjoyed theatrics. "William," I asked over the phone, "how'd you like to make $500 for about an hour's work?" When I explained the plan, he burst out laughing. "Corporate sabotage in the countryside. I'm in. What's my character's backstory?" We rehearsed his role. A sharp-talking investor trying to buy up small parcels for a development deal. His goal was to bid just high enough to rattle Patricia, but not enough to win. Auction day arrived. The sky was gray, rain drizzling lightly. The county meeting room was nearly empty. Patricia showed up in a designer pantsuit, carrying a sleek leather briefcase. William arrived looking the part of a scatterbrained investor, a mismatched blazer, thick glasses, juggling 2 cell phones. I wore my usual jeans and flannel. The auctioneer clearly expected it to be over in minutes. Plot XA 75 square meters. Opening bid, $500. I raised my hand. $600. Patricia responded without hesitation. $1,500. William called out enthusiastically, loud enough to turn a few heads. Patricia stiffened. She hadn't expected serious competition. $2,000. She snapped. $2,100. I chimed in. William raised the stakes. $5,000. This strip is exactly what my client needs. Patricia's face flushed. She rummaged through her briefcase, unfolding maps, trying to figure out what she had missed. The auctioneer looked more amused than surprised at the growing tension. $5,000 going on. See a broken bar. $7,500. Patricia barked, a little too loud. William theatrically pulled out his phone, muttering as if in a business call. The tension was delicious. $10,000, she blurted, standing up now. The room fell quiet. William frowned. That's beyond my client's limit. I'm out. I let out a slow sigh. Too rich for my blood. Congrats, Miss Gray. Patricia beamed in Victoria broken bar for all of 3 seconds. Then the confusion crept in. She had just paid $10,000 for a strip of land with no value on its own. In the parking lot, William collected his $500 with a grin. Did you see her face when it hit her? She might have been played, but the real surprise hadn't even landed yet. While Patricia was obsessing over Plot X, I had quietly filed paperwork to purchase Plot Y, a nearly identical strip of land on the opposite side. That very afternoon, I bought Plot Y for $800 through a private sale. No competition, no bidding war, no drama. Now Patricia owned one piece of the access puzzle, but without the second piece, it was useless. Like having a lock with no key. She had just thrown away $10,000, and was no closer to her dream resort than before. While Patricia had wasted $10,000 on a dead-end strip of land, I had quietly secured the only piece that actually mattered. For less than $1,000. Duke, always perceptive, seemed to pick up on my quiet victory that evening. We got her, boy, I told him as he wagged his tail. Tomorrow, we build the fence, and Patricia's going to find out what it costs to mess with a widow regarding a dream. I had just outmaneuvered her at the land auction, right under her nose. She was seething but still clueless about why that little scrap of dirt mattered so much. Could you guess what I planned to do with it? At 4:30 a.m., my driveway looked like the staging ground for a covert construction mission. 3 trucks rolled in silently, hauling steel posts, concrete, chain link rolls, and a compact excavator. I had hired Jake Morrison's crew, widely known as the best fence builders across 3 counties. They had one clear objective: get the entire job done before 8 a.m. sharp. Jake, A towering man with arms like oak trunks reviewed my blueprint by flashlight. 3-meter steel fence, electronic gate, deep concrete footings, cameras with motion sensors, he muttered as he checked things off. You expecting a war, Marcus? They'll learn not to mess with boundary lines, I replied simply. Jake chuckled. Say no more, you're not the first. We've built 5 anti-Karen fences this year. My crews got it down to an art. Duke watched every movement with excitement, tail wagging as the crew moved like a military unit. Post holes were drilled, concrete churned, steel anchored deep into the earth. By 5:45, the frame of the fence was already stretching across the entire 75-meter width of plot Y. The sky began to brighten with soft gray light, and that's when I noticed the flicker of movement next door, a light turning on in Patricia's bedroom, then her kitchen. Seconds later, her back door flew open, and out she charged in a silk robe and house slippers, a fury etched into her face. What is this noise? She shrieked. Stop this right now. I stepped forward, Duke calmly at my side. Good morning, Patricia, I said with a grin. Just making some upgrades. You know what they say, a early bird gets the worm. Her gaze darted toward the rising fence. Then, her jaw dropped as it clicked. You can't do this, she shouted, voice climbing with hysteria. This is harassment. You're disturbing the peace. I'll call the police. Please do, I said cheerfully, handing her a stack of official permits. Everything's legal. Agricultural zones allow work to start at 4:30 a.m. She scanned the stamped documents, face going from red to pale to purple. That's the road to the lake. You can't block it. Actually, I can. This is Plot Y, I replied coolly. I own it. You bought Plot XA right there, but without access through mine. Your $10,000 investment leads nowhere. Jake's team worked on, unfazed by the drama. They'd clearly seen their share of neighborhood wars. By 7:15, the project was done. An 8-foot-tall fortress of galvanized steel stood in place, topped with angled deterrent spikes. The electronic gate had a keypad, a magnetic lock, and 2 infrared cameras. Solar panels kept the system off-grid. Along the entire fence, every 20 feet, signs warned in bold, private property and no trespassing. A video surveillance. What was once a humble dirt trail now looked like the entrance to a correctional facility. Jake's crew packed up with practice tees. Short of a bulldozer, nothing's getting through that, Jake remarked. Want us to hang around for the fireworks? Nah, I said, handing him a thick envelope of cash. You've already made my day. They pulled out at 7:45 a.m. right on time, because Patricia's investor tour was scheduled to arrive in exactly 15 minutes. At 8 o'clock sharp, right on cue, Patricia emerged from her house dressed to impress. She wore a sharp navy blue suit, pearl necklace, and carried a leather portfolio. Behind her came a caravan of sleek black SUVs and sedans, at least 25 investors, if not more. I knew the type from my years in real estate. Hedge fund executives, land developers, angel investors, all of them scouting for the next big deal. Patricia played the part of tour guide like she was born for it. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced with theatrical flair, welcome to the future site of Patricia Lake Eco Resort. In just moments, you'll lay eyes on the pristine waters that will anchor our sustainable luxury destination. The crowd followed eagerly, visions of profit and prestige dancing in their minds. But as they rounded the bend toward the lake access, a broken bar, the parade came to a sudden, awkward stop. There it was, a massive steel fence, gleaming in the morning light. Every no trespassing sign practically shouted across the field. Silence. 25 high-powered investors stood dead still, expressions morphing from curiosity, a broken bar, to confusion, a broken bar, to outrage. Patricia froze mid-stride. Her real estate agent's smile faltered, then cracked. One of the red surveillance cameras swiveled toward the group. Its blinking red recording light blinked steadily. You could feel the tension snap like a dry twig. A silver-haired man in a $1,000 tailored suit stepped forward. Is this a joke, Miss Gray? Another woman added. Where's the lake access you promised? I flew in from Seattle. I charge $2,000 an hour, a third investor growled. And this looks like a scam to me. I want my deposit back. Now. Patricia's mouth opened to respond. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping on dry land. Thesa, this is just a temporary issue, a minor boundary misunderstanding, she insisted weakly, but her voice no longer carried its usual confidence. Beads of sweat dotted her forehead. Despite the morning chill, that was my cue. I strolled casually from my porch, Duke trotting at my heel like a soldier ready for battle. "Morning, everyone," I said cheerfully. "Gorgeous day for a property tour, wouldn't you say?" 25 heads turned toward me. Patricia's eyes locked onto mine, filled with fury. "That's the man causing all this trouble," she cried, trying to sound in control. "He's illegally blocking public lake access." "Nothing illegal going on here," I replied in a friendly tone, pulling out my freshly laminated deed. "This is plot Y purchased fair and square at the county auction. It's private property." "That over there," I pointed toward her expensive mistake. "Yeah, that's plot X. Unfortunately, it doesn't touch the lake." "Not unless you trespass." The lead investor, the silver-haired gentleman, studied the layout carefully, his sharp eyes narrowing. "Ms. Gray, a broken bar. Are you telling us you don't actually have legal access to the lake?" His voice was calm, but with the unmistakable weight of someone who's chaired many board meetings and crushed people in them. "Of course we do," Patricia stammered. "It's just a broken bar, just a minor detail." "Misunderstanding?" "Really?" "No misunderstanding at all," I chimed in, helpfully. "She owns a strip of land that leads a broken bar nowhere. I own the one that leads to the water. Unless your investors came equipped with wings, I'd say lake access is off the table." A younger investor had already pulled out his phone, likely dialing his attorney. Another started snapping photos of the fence, of Patricia, and of me. A few began whispering urgently with their colleagues. The woman from Seattle looked like she was ready to throw someone into the lake herself. "I gave you $25,000. A man yelled at Patricia. "You better believe I want it back." "That broke the dam." Everyone started shouting at once. 15 grand. "I wired $30,000. 50,000, just yesterday." Patricia's face had gone from flushed red to ghostly pale. Duke, sensing the tension, stepped in front of me with a low growl. "Please," Patricia pleaded, hands raised. "Let's go back to my house. We can discuss everything calmly, all right?" But the investors were already turning toward their luxury vehicles. "You'll be hearing from my lawyer. This is textbook fraud. I'm calling the FBI. Expect a lawsuit before Monday." Car doors slammed like gunshots, engines roared to life, and in minutes, the parade of wealth had peeled away in a cloud of dust, leaving Patricia alone, a broken bar and visibly shaking. She turned on me, eyes burning. "You've destroyed everything," she hissed. "Protected my property," I replied coolly, "kinda like how you should have protected those deposits." Her face twisted with rage. "Open this gate." "I have legal access." "Nope," I said calmly. "You have plot X, that's a 75 square meter dead end. You just spent $10,000 on a sidewalk to nowhere." "Congratulations." Patricia lunged at the gate, shaking it violently. "Open this or I'll sue you. I'll ruin you." Duke barked on Sia, sharp and firm. She jumped back instinctively. "Sue away," I told her. "Just make sure you've got enough left in the bank for all those refunds." Just then, a familiar blue pickup slowed as it passed. It was Thomas and Linda Murphy. Thomas rolled down his window and gave a knowing nod. "Morning, Marcus. That's a mighty fine fence. Looks sturdy as hell." Then, turning to Patricia with mock sympathy, "Everything all right, Miss Gray?" "You look a little broken bar distressed." Linda leaned over from the passenger seat, her smile pure sugar. "Oh Patricia, where'd all your investors run off to?" "They left in such a hurry." Patricia shot them a look that could kill. Thomas chuckled. "I've lived here 40 years and never seen anyone outwit themselves so magnificently." "You really bought a road to nowhere," Linda added sweetly. "Happens when folks buy oceanfront land at high tide. Sometimes you just need a little local knowledge." Before Patricia could respond, Sarah Wilson jogged up with her phone out, panting from the run. Sarah, who managed the local grocery and basically ran the town's unofficial news wire, was grinning ear to ear. "Oh my God, Patricia, someone just uploaded a video of your investor walkout. Already has over 300 views. Everyone's talking about it." She held up her screen. The grainy footage showed the investors stomping off, yelling about fraud. The comments were ruthless. "Scam Queen Patricia Gray, lock her up." and a drama-nest expose tilde copyright incoming. Patricia looked like she might faint. Her perfectly rehearsed morning had turned into a disaster that would spread through the community faster than wildfire. "This isn't over," she snapped at me. "I've got resources, connections." "You've made a powerful enemy." "No," I said evenly. "I made an enemy the day you tried to steal my lake. Today, I just fought back." She spun around and stormed off, her heels clicking hard against the pavement. But I noticed her shoulders shaking. Whether from fury or fear of broken bar I couldn't say. Duke and I stood beside our brand new steel fortress, watching her retreat. The sun had fully risen now, casting long golden rays across the lake. The water sparkled peacefully just as Emily had always imagined. And once I gained a broken bar it was safe. "Good boy," I said to Duke, scratching behind his ears. We did it, but as much as I wanted to enjoy the win, a voice in my mind reminded me Patricia wasn't done. Desperate people tend to become dangerous, and right now, she was as desperate as they come. The investors would be demanding their money back, and she had most likely already burned through it: permits, promotional materials, and no doubt, a few personal indulgences. I'd cornered her, and a trapped predator is always at its most dangerous. Just then, Thomas parked his truck and ambled over, shaking his head. "That was something else, Marcus," he said. "But be careful. She's got the look of someone with nothing left to lose." "I know," I replied. "But she started this war." "Just remember," Thomas added with a serious look, "winning a battle isn't the same as winning the whole war. She'll find another way to come at you," as if fate wanted to prove his point. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A social media notification. I'd been tagged in a post. Patricia had already launched her counterattack, and from the looks of it, this one would get ugly. Still, for now, I had my fence. I had my lake, and I had the satisfaction of watching 25 investors drive away from her scam like dust in the wind. Duke and I made our way back to the house for breakfast, bracing ourselves for the real storm ahead. Because if Patricia had shown anything, it was that she'd lie, cheat, and manipulate to get what she wanted. The question now was what would she try next? That question was answered at dawn the very next morning. At exactly 6 a.m., the silence was shattered by the glare of flashing lights. 2 police cruisers pulled into my driveway. This time, Patricia had come armed with backup. Officer Rodriguez and Officer Kim stepped out, both wearing expressions of people who were already tired of dealing with neighbor disputes. Behind them, Patricia exited her vehicle with a sickeningly rehearsed grace. A white bandage wrapped her arm, and a touch of makeup made her look pale and fragile. But that wasn't all. She'd brought a witness. A jittery man stepped out behind her. Jeremy Peterson. He was new in town, having just moved into the old Baker property, and from the way he was avoiding eye contact, I could tell he'd been coached. "Officers, thank you for coming so quickly," Patricia said with a trembling voice full of well-practiced fear. "Yesterday was terrifying. I tried speaking with Mr. Marcus about the fence, and he physically assaulted me." She delicately raised her bandaged arm like a trophy. "Jeremy saw everything," she added, giving him a not-so-subtle nudge. Jeremy swallowed hard and mumbled, "A broken bar. I saw Mr. Marcus push Miss Gray." She fell and scraped her arm on the fence. His delivery was so stiff and unconvincing that Duke let out a soft growl from behind the screen door. Officer Rodriguez kept a neutral face but raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Marcus, we need to ask you about this alleged incident. Miss Gray says you assaulted her around 4 p.m. near the new fence." I stayed calm. I had expected something like this. "Officers," I said, "I've got 8 high-definition security cameras around my property, all with audio. Everything is recorded. Would you like to review the footage?" Patricia's confident facade faltered just a bit. She hadn't noticed the cameras yesterday when she lost her temper. "Videos can be edited," she said hastily. "Everyone knows about deepfakes these days." Officer Kim wasn't buying it. "Ma'am, we have forensic tools to verify authenticity." "Mr. Marcus, can we take a look?" I welcomed them inside. Duke stayed close as I opened my laptop and pulled up the time-stamped recordings. 4:07 p.m., crystal clear, multiple angles. The footage showed Patricia alone and no Jeremy in sight. She kicked the gate repeatedly, then scraped her arm against a bolt intentionally, grimacing as she did it. Then she calmly walked away. The room was silent. Jeremy looked like he was about to faint. Rodriguez fixed him with a hard stare. "Mr. Peterson, care to revise your statement? Knowingly filing a false report is a felony." Jeremy broke almost instantly. She offered me $5,000, he confessed, his voice shaking. "My daughter's sick. I needed the money. I didn't know what else to do. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." He looked genuinely crushed. Patricia's mask shattered completely. "You fool," she snapped at him. "I should have known better than to trust a weak coward like you." Rodriguez had heard enough. He stepped forward with cuffs. "Ms. Gray, you are under arrest for filing a false police report and witness tampering. You have the right to remain silent." A broken bar. As they cuffed her, she stared daggers at me. "This isn't over," she hissed. "You don't know who you're dealing with. I have connections. You'll regret this." But the threats felt empty now. The law was involved. Her reputation had taken another hit, and this one would be harder to explain away. Jeremy stayed behind, ashamed, as he gave a full statement about the bribe. Though Patricia would post bail and be out later that day, her damage control efforts were quickly unraveling. "I didn't feel victorious, I just felt tired." How far would Patricia go? What was her next move? That evening, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Messages, mentions, missed calls. Patricia had spent her post-bail afternoon building what could only be described as a digital smear campaign straight out of a thriller. Across Facebook, local groups, neighborhood forums, and even LinkedIn. She unleashed a flood of twisted narratives. Local monopolist threatened single woman's safety. One banner blared, "Violent widower harasses community leader." Another claimed, "She'd photoshopped images of me to make me look like a lunatic while tied." Fists clenched and fabricated screenshots of threatening messages I'd never sent. In her warped tale, I was no longer a quiet man living alone by the lake. No, now I was some deranged recluse who had poisoned the lake, killed his wife for insurance, and had a vendetta against strong, successful women. The posts caught fire. Strangers, people who didn't know me, who'd never been to this side of town, began piling on. "Men like this are why women aren't safe. Someone should reinvestigate his wife's death. Boycott any business connected to him." Reporters started calling, neighbors texted, some asking questions, others outright accusing me. One message just said, "Rot in hell." Sarah Wilson rang next, panic thick in her voice. "Marcus, it's bad. She's got half the county believing you're a psychopath. It's all over town." Duke pressed himself against my leg, sensing my stress. For a brief moment, I considered defending myself comment by comment, explaining, clarifying, pleading logic. But then I remembered an old lesson from my real estate days: never argue with a liar in their arena. Instead, build your own stage, and use facts as your spotlight. I spent 2 quiet, focused hours crafting my response. No rants, no outrage, just a deliberate, undeniable dossier of truth. The post was titled, "The Truth About Patricia Gray aka Patricia Coleman." Subtitle, "Evidence Speaks Louder Than Lies." I opened with a 2018 mugshot. Patricia's arrest in Florida for real estate fraud, easily found in public records. Then came the timeline, screenshots of her original posts attempting to sell access to my lake, all dated well before any confrontation. Next, I added the unedited security footage, Patricia faking her injury, and the audio of her bribing Jeremy Peterson for false testimony. Police reports accompanied both, but the hammer came in the form of victim statements, 15 in total, people who had wired her deposits ranging from $3,000 to $25,000, all for a fake lakeside resort that never existed. Total, $89,000 stolen. The final blow, something even I didn't expect. While digging deeper, I discovered Patricia's real identity, Patricia Coleman. Her past unfolded like a true crime docuseries. Florida, 2018. Convicted of forging real estate documents. Texas, 2020. Arrested for operating a fake Airbnb scam. California, 2022. Fled before trial after embezzling from elderly clients. Each time, she skipped town, changed her name, and restarted the con. I included links to every article, court record, And news piece. I added testimonies from victims across all 3 states. The post ended simply, "I'm just a widower who wants to fish in peace." Patricia Coleman is a serial fraudster who preys on trusting communities. The evidence speaks for itself. Within an hour, the post had 500 shares. By the 3-hour mark, it had crossed 6,000. Comments poured in. "I knew something was off. Thank you, Marcus. She almost scammed my sister." Finally, someone stood up to her. Thomas Murphy chimed in. "She tried selling land that wasn't hers." "I've lived here 40 years, ain't never seen a more crooked con." Sarah Wilson added, "My cousin lost $5,000 to her. We're pressing charges." Linda Murphy's comment was sharp and sweet. "Found out her ex-husband divorced her after she stole his mother's retirement." Local news caught on. Serial fraudster exposed in Anna Drummond community ad. The headline featured Patricia's mugshot and quotes from victims. Someone even created a website compiling every alias and fraud case linked to her. By nightfall, the FBI's white-collar division had launched a formal investigation into her interstate crimes. Patricia deleted her social media, all of it, but the screenshots were already everywhere. The damage wasn't just done, it was permanent. Her reputation didn't just crack, it imploded. The tide turned fast. Phone calls I had dreaded were now full of apologies. "Sorry we believed her. We should have known better. Thank you for standing up for the truth." Duke finally relaxed beside me, resting his chin on my foot as we sat on the porch. The lake shimmered under moonlight. Emily's lake. Our lake. For the first time in weeks, I exhaled. But I knew this wasn't over. Patricia was the kind of person who, once cornered, became even more dangerous. And the next morning, I got my confirmation. Her car was gone, but she hadn't fled. Inside the house, Duke refused his breakfast, pacing and whining at the front door. When I opened it, he bolted straight toward the lake. Duke stood stiff by the new fence line, barking sharply toward his water bowl. Something was wrong. As I approached, a sickening sight stopped me cold. A rainbow-like oily sheen coated the surface of the water. My stomach twisted. I dumped the bowl instantly and called the vet. "Bring him in now," Dr. Martinez said, her tone urgent, "and bring a water sample." Thank God Duke hadn't taken a sip. His instincts had saved him again. The tests confirmed what I feared. Antifreeze, sweet tasting, deadly, especially for dogs. Patricia hadn't just tried to destroy my reputation, she had tried to kill my best friend. I filed a new police report. They attempted animal cruelty, another criminal charge to stack atop her ever-growing record. But this one felt different. Fraud, lies, schemes. This was a declaration of war. Duke wasn't just my companion. He was the last living piece of Emily, her dog, her shadow, her guardian. And Patricia had tried to take him away from me. That night, I doubled the security. I added motion-activated lights, infrared cameras, reinforced locks. Duke stayed inside, confused, pacing near the windows. He missed the freedom of his yard. But freedom wasn't worth his life. Patricia had crossed a line. The dispute that started with property had now mutated into something darker, something dangerous. The next morning, I took the fight to higher ground. Anderson, Edwards Associates, an upscale law firm with a reputation for precision and brutal efficiency. The office exuded power, polished wood, hushed conversations, deep leather chairs. Robert Anderson himself reviewed my case file, each page deepening the furrow in his brow. "Mr. Marcus," he said, sliding his glasses down, "in 30 years of practice, I've rarely seen a more textbook case of serial fraud." He tapped Patricia's file. Or rather, Patricia Coleman. "She's violated 5 major statutes in just this state, and that's before we even begin crossing state lines." He turned his laptop toward me. His paralegals had uncovered more than I imagined. 3 additional victims in Nevada, 2 in Arizona, and even a retired couple in Maine who'd lost their life savings. "She's been doing this for over a decade," he said. "The pattern is stunning. Target small, trusting communities, create fake developments, collect deposits, disappear." "The lake resort?" I asked. "Just another iteration," he nodded grimly. "But this time, she got sloppy. We strategized for 2 solid hours. Civil lawsuits A for harassment, defamation, emotional distress, attempted theft of property rights. Criminal referrals A for fraud, filing false reports, witness tampering, and now, attempted animal poisoning. With her history, Anderson said, no prosecutor will cut her a deal. She's out of chances. Then he added, by the way, Florida still has an active warrant from when she skipped bail in 2018. Texas, too. California's been looking for her since 2022. This time, she wouldn't slip away. The net was closing, woven entirely from her own lies. While I signed paperwork in the lobby, Duke sat patiently, charming the front desk staff with his polite tail wags and soulful eyes. Meanwhile, Patricia's world was crumbling. Her phone was ringing off the hook, but the calls weren't friendly. Where's my $5,000 deposit? I want my money back today. My attorney will contact you shortly. The group chat for her victims now included 23 people, and the total fraud had ballooned to $113,000. And that wasn't the end of her unraveling. The mortgage company came knocking about missed payments. Her car dealer demanded to renegotiate her lease or return the vehicle. Credit cards froze her accounts. Debt collectors started circling like vultures. She tried to retain legal help, but her reputation had spread faster than wildfire. Patricia Coleman, sorry, we're at capacity. 3 convictions? You'll need a $200,000 retainer. Currently being investigated by the FBI? No thank you. Even bottom-barrel defense firms turned her away. One lawyer told her flat out, you don't need a lawyer, you need a miracle. Patricia even tried her luck with the public defender's office, faking poverty. The overworked attorney took one look at her assets and sneered, you own a house, a car, and you're under 10 active investigations. You're not indigent, you're just broke. Meanwhile, Anna Drummond rallied. A community meeting was called. The hall was so packed, people stood shoulder to shoulder. Walter Freeman, our town council president, raised his hand for silence. We're here to address the Patricia Gray situation. Let's keep it factual, civil. But there was little civility left. One by one, neighbors stood to testify. She told me the lake was deeded to her. I gave her $8,000. She promised my daughter a job at the resort. She dumped trash on my property. My dog got sick drinking runoff from her yard. Then Thomas Murphy, who'd lived in Anna Drummond for 40 years, rose. We've had our share of disputes, he said. But this woman came here to bleed our town dry. She thought small town folks were easy prey. Applause erupted. Linda Murphy added, she tried to destroy Marcus, a man who's been nothing but kind and respectful since Emily passed. That's not just fraud, that's evil. The vote was unanimous. Patricia Gray, or rather, Patricia Coleman, was banned from every future community event. Persona non grata. The decision carried no legal weight, but its symbolism was deafening. Her house went up for sale 2 days later, listed well below market value. No bites. People whispered, that's the fraud house. Cursed. Real estate agents refused to list it. Too much heat, one admitted. Maybe try Craigslist. Patricia was trapped, drowning in debt, abandoned by neighbors, despised by the town. Her car was repossessed one morning as she begged the driver to stop. Utilities issued shut-off warnings. Her empire of lies had collapsed. And then came Judgment Day. The courtroom buzzed with tension. Patricia sat in the defendant's chair, swallowed by an ill-fitting blazer, her face gaunt, her posture brittle. Her lawyer, clearly a last-minute grab, shuffled through papers, visibly lost. The prosecutor, Jennifer Walsh, stood tall and steady. Ladies and gentlemen, she addressed the jury, this case is not about one angry neighbor. It's about a serial predator who has left a trail of devastation across 7 states over 12 years. A woman who preyed on kindness, trust, and grief. A broken bar who targets small towns thinking we're easy marks, the prosecutor declared, locking eyes with the jury. Today we prove that justice reaches even the quietest corners, even places like Anna Drummond. The evidence was damning. Crystal clear security footage showed Patricia lying, vandalizing, and staging injuries. Audio recordings captured her bribing a neighbor to file a false police report. Dozens of fraudulent lake sale listings signed, dated, and traced directly to her. And then came the victim testimonies. 23 brave people, many driving hours just to stare down the woman who conned them. I testified, too, about the harassment, the false accusations, and the poison in Duke's water bowl. Even Duke had his moment, sitting quietly beside me as the prosecutor described Patricia's attempt to kill him. Several jurors flinched. One visibly wiped a tear. Patricia's defense, flimsy at best. Her overmatched lawyer muttered about stress and financial hardship, as if 12 years of cross-state fraud could be chalked up to a few bad days. When Patricia took the stand, she tried to flip the script, painting herself as the real victim. She claimed I had orchestrated the entire thing to steal her property, but the prosecutor eviscerated her with one question. If it was your property, a broken bar, why were you trying to sell it weeks before you'd ever met the rightful owner? Silence. The jury deliberated for exactly 47 minutes. Guilty, on all counts. 2 weeks later, the sentencing came down. Patricia Coleman, the judge intoned, you are a career criminal with no remorse, only regret that you were caught. You have stolen dreams, ruined reputations, and tried to destroy a community that welcomed you with open arms. I hereby sentence you to 18 years in federal prison, with no chance of early release for 5. You are also ordered to pay $317,000 in full restitution across all jurisdictions. Patricia collapsed at the defendant's table. At her age, it was a life sentence. As they cuffed her and led her away, she threw me one last look. The hatred was still there, but now it was buried under something heavier. Total, irrevocable defeat. 1 month later, the town gathered for a cookout by the lake. Peace had returned to Anadromnest. Technically, it was a community barbecue, but everyone called it what it really was. The Patricia's finally gone party. Sarah Wilson brought her famous potato salad and the latest gossip. Did you hear? She's at the Kentucky Federal Facility. Kitchen duty. From fake resort mogul to dishwasher, she whispered. Laughter rippled through the crowd. I didn't feel pity. Not exactly, but I did feel something. Patricia had been smart, driven. If she'd used her talents with integrity, she might have built something real. Instead, she chose lies. And it had cost her everything. You did good, Marcus, Walter Freeman said, raising his beer. Stood up to a bully. Emily would have been proud. The mention of Emily still brought a broken bar, but now it also brought warmth. I've protected her dream, kept my promise, Duke barked playfully, chasing a butterfly along the shore. The lake shimmered in the autumn light, peaceful, protected, ours again. As the sun dipped behind the trees, painting the sky in strokes of pink and gold, I whispered to the breeze, we did it, Em. The lake is safe. Duke trotted back to my side, wet and smiling from his shoreline adventures. Together, we sat quietly, watching twilight settle across the water, guardian and companion, keeping watch over a memory and a promise. Patricia was gone, but Emily's spirit remained. It lived in the ripples, in every calm morning, in the freedom Duke enjoyed by the water, in the strength our town found together. Sometimes, justice comes in handcuffs and courtrooms. Sometimes, it comes in the simple joy of a dog splashing in a lake his human fought to protect. Both kinds matter, both kinds heal. That's the true story of Patricia Gray, or as the federal system now knows her, Patricia Coleman, who tried to scam her way through Anadromnest, and lost everything instead. People often ask me, do you feel guilty about the 18-year sentence? And my answer has never changed. Number. She tried to destroy lives, and very nearly succeeded. She tried to poison my dog. She tried to steal the place where Emily's memory lives on. She got exactly what she deserved. Today, the ranch is calm. Duke's getting older but still enjoys our walks. The community is stronger, united by what we endured and overcame. We proved that when small towns stand together, no scammer can break us. I still fish every evening from the same old spot. I still talk to Emily when the sun hits the water just right. And I still smile knowing we protected her dream. If this story moved you, or made you feel less alone in your own battle, do me a favor. Like this video, share your story in the comments, and subscribe to Anadromnest for more true stories of justice, resilience, and community. Have you ever dealt with a neighbor from hell? How did you stand your ground? Tell me below. And remember, sometimes the best revenge a broken bar is just protecting what's yours. See you in the next one. Anadromnest.